Formula One, NASCAR, and the Super Bowl? How do all of them come together into one? Sit tight, we'll find out. All this and more. So let's get inside the scrutineering room and find out. What's up, family? David here. Welcome back inside the scrutineering room for another episode. It's been a couple of days, but we got a lot to catch up to. So this looks like it's going to be a little bit of a rapid fire show. So like I said, we got a lot to cover. Let's get to it. And I'm going to start with a couple series that, for you non-racing fans, I'm going to try and break down for you. Going to start with the World Endurance Championship, better known to us gearheads as WEC. So, World Endurance Championship is the top level for sports cars. This is where you see the lavish prototypes. All the manufacturers are here: Ferrari, Porsche, Lamborghini, Cadillac, Corvette, Ford Mustang, McLaren. They're all here. They have an 8-race globe-trotting world tour. And basically it's endurance style racing. No race is shorter than 6 hours, hence the endurance in the name. And the highlight is the famed 24 hours of Le Mans. If you're a lay sports fan, you probably heard of that race before. But with all things said and considered, it's still a very big thing. Now that I gave you a little bit of a teaser, the series opens next month in Qatar. They will do a race that is 1,812 kilometers. I know, very interesting. But there's some reasoning behind that. And I'll get to that in my WEC preview show that'll come a little later down the line. So, want to catch you guys up on a couple of stories that I broke out in there. First off, let's start with Alpine. Let's first start with Alpine, which is a spin-off of Renault, or owned by Renault. Basically, Alpine is Renault's racing namesake. They launched their brand new prototype, the A424 Le Mans Daytona hybrid prototype. LMDh is one of the 2 types of prototypes to make up what is known as the hypercar category, which is the top level. You'll see the most professional drivers, the top rated drivers. These are the guys who's getting paid the big money to race for the big manufacturers in this series. So on Wednesday, February 7th, Alpine launched their A424, and their 6 drivers. They have a primarily French lineup, but they have 2 foreigners. And by far the biggest name on that lineup is Mick Schumacher. Mick is the son of 7-time Formula One champion Michael. Mick spent 2 seasons in Formula One himself for the American Haas F1 team. Unfortunately, the results, while he did have some pretty good days, his best finish was a 6th in one of the Haas cars. Never quite kept it consistent enough to stay in Formula One. He's a current reserve driver for Mercedes. So if Lewis Hamilton or George Russell are knocked out, Mick will come to the rescue. But he is on the Alpine driver lineup for the 2024 season, and he will be in their number 36 car when the season starts off in Qatar next month. And basically, there is one little thing about Mick I do want to mention. Mick actually is contracted to Mercedes as a reserve driver. So, as I mentioned, a little bit of a joking way, however, if Lewis or George are incapable of performing their duties, if there is a conflict with the World Endurance program that Mick signed on for, he will be called up to race at Mercedes. So Mick will be doing the season for Alpine. However, his commitment will be to Mercedes F1. Some other driver announcements. For McLaren, they're competing in the GT3 category. If you are familiar with sports car racing, GT3 has been around since 2005. It's a lesser form. It's basically the cars that you see on the streets. The Corvettes, the 911s, for Lamborghini, it's the Huracan. Lexus has their RCF. And Aston Martin also has their Vantage model. But like I said, these are basically these are the street cars that are basically built up to race specifications. However, they still have this. They still have the stock. They still have the road going motors tuned to racing levels and very minimal adjustments that the teams are able to make in order to keep costs down at that level. It's been one of the most successful Grand Touring or GT platforms throughout the history of sports car racing, and the fact that it's been going for nearly 20 years speaks a lot to that. But to get back on track, McLaren has signed 2 drivers this week, James Cunningham and Nico Pino. Cunningham from England is set to join. He raced, a lot of people will be very unfamiliar with James. He raced last season in the British GT Championship, one of the national level GT series that have been created all across the world. But was very big in that series. 5 podiums, including 3 wins in the British GT campaign last season. So very big for him to get the call up to McLaren. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Cunningham is just hit 40. However, on the opposite end of the spectrum is young Nico Pino, just 19 years old. He, in addition to he'll be running in the sister McLaren, the number 95. Cunningham will be in the number 59. Just want to make that portion clear. But he will be, but Nico's 19 from Chile, and he actually raced with the team in the Rolex 24. For IndyCar fans, you'll remember he was actually one of Pato O'Wart's teammates in the race. So he'll be in the number 95 with Marino Sato. If you followed F2 the last couple of years, that name will sound familiar. Marino was cutting his trade in Formula 2 the last 2-3 seasons. So Marino will be partnering Nico in the number 95. Nico will also be doing the Michelin Endurance Cup for you IMSA fans, so you have not seen the last of Nico yet, but he will be doing the full campaign for McLaren. On to Aston Martin. If you're an IMSA fan, these names will sound pretty familiar to you. Heart of Racing will run one of Aston Martin's 2 entries in the series, the other being the Japanese Destation Racing team. Team principal Ian James will also serve as one of the 3 drivers for the 8-race tour, along with Spaniard Alex Riberas, who is kind of their top tier, who is one of their top tier professional drivers. And as their gentleman driver, they will have Daniel Mancinelli of Italy. Joining them, they will run car number 27 for Aston Martin. Big step for them as they prepare to go into the top prototype category in both IMSA and in the World Endurance Championship for 2025 with the Aston Martin Valkyrie, and that car is going to be absolutely amazing. Can't wait for that car to launch. They're going to be doing testing in mass a little later on this year. Last but not least, let's talk about one of my favorite stories in the sport, and that is the ladies of the Iron Dames. Iron Dames, if you are familiar with sports car racing, they're an extension of the Iron Lynx team, which is essentially Lamborghini's factory squad. But the Iron Dames are an all-woman team, and they are promoting women in motorsport at all levels. They announced their WEC lineup for the Iron Dames car. It will be Michelle Gatting of Denmark, Sarah Bouvier of Belgium, and young Dorian Penn. She's 20 years old. You will hear that name if you're in Formula One circles a lot this season. Dorian is Mercedes selected junior female driver. She will race in the F1 Academy series, which is essentially the Formula 4 level for women at the F1 feeder series. And each F1 team will have at least one female driver in their lineup. By the way, we will have an American, Chloe Chambers, will be competing for, of all teams, Haas. Bidding. So that's the latest. So Dorian will, in addition to F1 Academy, she'll have 8 races in the World Endurance Championship. And oh, by the way, this is also the team that won the last race in the GT category in the World Endurance Championship when the season concluded in Bahrain last November. So that team trying to keep their momentum up, but Lamborghini has a very, very stacked grid this season. So my goodness, it's going to be very interesting to see where they go. Next up, I want to introduce you guys to another series, Extreme E. And if you don't know what Extreme E is, here's a little bit of the Cliff Notes version of that for you as well, for those who are non-racing fans or racing fans that are not familiar with this. Extreme E started in 2021. They're an all-electric off-road racing series. They're designed to bring awareness to environmental challenges caused by climate change. Their races actually take place at venues that have been negatively affected by negatively impacted by climate change in recent years. It's a series that is also promoting gender equality, where each team has to have a male and a female driver in it. And if there is any more sustainability, they also have a cruise ship as a paddock. Well, not necessarily a cruise ship, but they have a ship as a paddock of all things. And there are a number of big names that have teams in this series. Former world champions Jenson Button and Nico Rosberg have teams. World Rally champion Carlos Sainz, Sr., not Jr. Big manufacturer involvement until in the series as well. However, there is some changing of the tide that's coming along, and I'll get to that in a minute. However, I mentioned some of the names that have been involved in the sport. Two that were involved, very familiar names, Lewis Hamilton and Chip Ganassi. This week, both announced that their teams will be leaving the series ahead of its 2024 season. Chip announced the reason for their leaving was the transition to hydrogen, spoiler, did not fit in with General Motors' plans. For those who are not aware of the series, Chip actually had sponsorship from General Motors, and General Motors was promoting their Hummer EV brand in Extreme E through Ganassi's Extreme E team, which was one of the top contending teams in the sport. However, the team deciding they don't want to continue on anymore. As for Lewis's X44 team, it's not as much of hydrogen as much as who was running the show. In 2023, Lewis team was ran by longtime feeder formula stalwart Trevor Carlin. His Carlin Motorsports team, in addition to have done IndyCar, Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula Renault, the team's just been massive. They've done it all. Over the winter, the team was sold to New Zealand automotive conglomerate Rodin Cars. And when the team was sold, by the way, Trevor and his wife Stephanie no longer have any ownership in the team anymore. It's completely now ran by Rodin. Rodin did not make any mention of Trevor's involvement with Lewis's Extreme E team, and this week it was confirmed that it seems with Carlin backing out and not another team to run it, considering ProDrive ran the team in its first 2 seasons but not interested in running the series anymore. That's the reason Lewis's team is backing out of Extreme E. And as I led to in the series, this 2024, as I led to in the Chip Ganassi portion of this, 2024 will be the final season of the series being electric. In 2023, the series announced they're going to do a pivot. Starting in 2025, the series will go from electric power to hydrogen power. So the series will be known as Extreme H starting in 2025. So this 2024 will be the last season under its original guise of Extreme E before it makes the transition. So we'll have a little bit more on them as well. We'll probably do the race by race. We'll do like quick race recaps for them throughout the season, but that actually is a pretty good series worth watching. Now let's move on to the 3 big series everyone wants to talk about: NASCAR, IndyCar, and Formula 1. Let me start with IndyCar. Just one quick note. McLaren has yet to launch their brand new F1 car. However, this week they was very busy on the socials launching their 2024 paint schemes for the IndyCar team. For drivers Pato O'Ward, David Malukas, and Alexander Rossi. The team unveiled each paint scheme one a day throughout the week gone by. And I gotta say, once again, McLaren's social media team doing an excellent job of really making sure they're getting the team hyped up. But also, I gotta admit, the papaya orange just works, whether it be with the black, white, even that NTT Data Blue. In Malukas' case, that'll be on his number 6 this season. I gotta think there's gonna be some very big stuff coming from there. So definitely a lot. And you just saw the pictures on the screen. Those are some pretty good looking cars, and can't wait for the season. By the way, IndyCar season, March 10th on the streets of St. Petersburg is when things kick off. Now on to NASCAR. A lot of some pretty big news this week, most of it trucks, but first I do want to touch up on this. NASCAR Tracks, which owns Daytona, Talladega, Kansas, they've been doing a revamp of track logos. Last month they unveiled Kansas Speedway's new logo. Prior to the new year, they unveiled new logos for Homestead, Miami, and Richmond Raceway. Well, this week they unveiled the new logo for Talladega Super Speedway. Fan reaction has been very mixed, to say the least. In mixed, maybe an understatement. A lot say they enjoy the old logos, not even the one that was preceding this logo, but the immediate previous, and even the one that went back to the 1990s. A lot of fans said that it wasn't broke, why fix it, and just doesn't give you the feel of Talladega. I get the uniformity, but I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of it. It doesn't have that, at least I can say with the other logos that have been posted on the revamp, they give you a little bit of a sense of where the track is. They give you a little bit of the sense of the surrounding, like Michigan does, Kansas does, Homestead, Miami does. If you haven't seen them, check them out on X. Then plenty of fans have posted the photos on social media. But the Talladega one does, in my opinion, it still does lack something. So it'll be very interesting to see where NASCAR goes with it. Do they kind of listen to the fans? Do they still incorporate some of that old logo? They did incorporate a little bit of the old logo. When you saw the A's, they still have the slash on it, like how the old Talladega logos used to have. But it's still, I get the uniformity, but in my opinion, it still lacks a little something. So I'm not going to say I absolutely hate it, but I'm not going to say I'm over the heels in love with it. Now, a lot of truck news that's dropped. If you know me, I'm a huge supporter of young Rajah Caruth. DC native, 21 years old, and also HBCU family. Shout out to Winston-Salem State University, where he currently attends school. Rajah was confirmed for the number 71 Chevrolet Silverado in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series full-time with Spire Motorsports. Rajah did a part-time schedule with them in 2022, so a little bit of back into the fold. He spent his rookie full-time season with GMS Racing before the team shut down at the end of the season. One big key, though, his crew chief from GMS, Chad Walters, a veteran in the NASCAR garage, will follow Rajah to the 71 next season. I'm very elated. Rajah said that it was a very, very rough offseason, not knowing where he was going to be, but here we are, literally on the verge of the start of the season. The announcement came Wednesday morning, so 10 days, and I don't even think it was that late, 10 days before the start of the season. Here he is, he's finally got everything, he's ready to go, but even then, you kind of had that sense he was still preparing himself. And Rajah has been well revered for for how he carries himself in the garage. So I'm elated for Rajah. I'm happy he's getting this chance to aspire. Great chance to go back. I really hope he gets a win this season, makes the Truck Series playoffs, and just shows the speed and the talent that he really has. And I hope he yields this into more. We've seen him run in the Xfinity Series last couple of seasons. Hope he gets some more opportunities to do some Xfinity stuff. But boy, I really feel the future's bright for Rajah. I really hope this is going to be that breakthrough season in trucks for him. Staying in the Spire stable, Corey Lajoie, who runs Spire's number 7 in the Cup Series, he will race next Friday night in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Opener. He'll run the number 7 car, which is going to be a revolving door of drivers. Corey can run up to 5 races. So this one he'll be running. He ran the 7 last year in the truck opener at Daytona. Didn't have as much success. Also, the race got cut short. I know, I was there. But it seems like Corey's ready to give it a second try. He's got a sponsor. Blue Green's Vacations will adorn the number 7 Spire truck. Last but not least, the number 45, which is ran by Nice Motorsports, which ran Carson Hocevar last year. Carson, of course, part of the Championship 4 in that crazy truck championship finale at Phoenix. Nice will run the number 45, which will feature Ross Chastain. Chastain will do 5 races as he is permitted by NASCAR rule. His first race will be Indianapolis. Other drivers who will feature in that car will be Connor Mosack, a young up-and-coming driver in the NASCAR ranks. Johnny Sauter, a veteran of NASCAR racing, former Truck Series champion. He'll kick off the 45 schedule next weekend at Daytona. And the last piece of the equation, Caden Honeycutt, who is very well known in sim racing circles, ran some Truck Series races last year, veteran on the late model scene. He will run 12 races in that 45. His first race will be the February 24th race at Atlanta, the second round of the season. So that's the latest from the Truck Series. However, there is one last little tidbit. Xfinity did a little showcase teaming up with NASCAR in Las Vegas during Super Bowl week, and they did an Xfinity car, truck car, but they also had a Cup car which had a very interesting paint scheme. They had the number 84, which Jimmy Johnson will run this year, in a very unique black, green, and orange for Family Dollar and Dollar General, and it had social media buzzing. So a lot of fans were very on the fence or off about it. You had very little 100% positive I'm behind it. My opinion on it is, if you haven't seen a combined Family Dollar and Dollar Tree store, yeah, I can understand why you're not the biggest of it. I come from South Georgia. I've seen combined Family Dollar, Dollar Tree stores around, so to see this doesn't surprise me. I'm a little thrown off by the black, honestly, but hey, I'm not the designer. I've seen 1 or 2 on social media that do look better and would be a better look for the car. So hey, if this is the show car they came up with, so be it. With that being said, it is not confirmed if that paint scheme will run this year. So only time will tell. We'll see how it plays out on the number 84 combined Family Dollar Dollar Tree machine. Just in case you're not familiar, Family Dollar and the Dollar Tree Holdings Corporation, their cars will have a sponsor. They will sponsor a car in each of the 38 races for Legacy Motor Club through either Eric Jones, John Hunter Nemechek, or Jimmy Johnson. Last but not least, let's get to some Formula One news. On Monday, when I last uploaded, we talked about the first 3 launches. We've had 2 more this week. I alluded to them. It was Visa Cash App RB Racing, or better known as VCARB, and I think the team actually jokingly said they'll put the car, or they'll be known that way, if you will. And Alpine. In addition to launching their World Endurance Championship prototype, which I mentioned earlier in this show, they also launched their A524 F1 entry. Keeping with the pink, Best Water Technologies, their title sponsor, well known for a long time for having pink involved with their company. The pink is back. However, there is a lot more carbon black on the car this time around. Not as much of that Alpine blue. Still get a little bit of the French tricolour red and white on there as well. Funny that, well, not funny. The team will run both a primary blue and a primary pink. 16 races in the primary blue, but then the blue and the pink will switch. The pink will get top billing in 8 races. Did not see which races those will be, but BWT Alpine F1 off and running with their A524. Esteban Ocon, Pierre Gasly on hand at the launch to answer questions as well. Now, also part of Super Bowl week was Visa Cash App RB Racing. They were at the Wynn Las Vegas Thursday night to unveil their VCARB01. And my goodness, I think this is going to be a hit paint scheme with the fans because there is very little carbon black on this thing. As a matter of fact, it takes you back to 2017, 2018 under the team's Toro Rosso guys. A lot of blue, a lot of silver. The bull is back in silver on this 2024 car for drivers Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda. But yep, these of course is now one of the title sponsors on the car. Wanted to do a tie-in with the NFL, with the NFL being in Vegas for Super Bowl week. Great opportunity to mesh the two together. So here they were in Las Vegas launching the car. And I even personally said this, they had a lot of high profile guests, including the one and only Kendrick Lamar was on hand Thursday night for the unveiling. So definitely a way to make a splash right in the middle of Super Bowl happenings up there in Viva Las Vegas. With that being said, as car expectations go, it doesn't look like there's too much expectation, not on the side of Alpine, neither on the side of VCARB. So only time will tell how those cars will actually perform in on-track action. We'll know once we get testing later on this month in Bahrain. Last thing before we get to a couple of recap news, the F1 announced sprint weekends will get another change for 2024. Friday will still have the one free practice, 60 minutes. However, they will go into sprint qualifying. Now, no word on if that format will change from 23 to 24. Saturday morning will be the sprint. Saturday afternoon will transition to the main race. They'll have qualifying for the main race. And then Sunday remains unchanged with the race itself. My opinion, hallelujah. Thank you, F1, for making this schedule absolutely slap. This is perfect flow of race weekend. There really is no other way to have done it. I'm glad that way it keeps fans basically, oh, we're doing sprint. No. Oh, we're qualifying Friday for Sunday, and then Saturday's his own thing. No. Have sprint qualifying on Friday to give everybody, you're still giving people some Friday money. Saturday, you're giving them a sprint race, not as much impact, but still pretty high drama. And then you go straight into main race qualifying, which I think is a pretty big positive for teams. And then on Sunday, Sunday is Sunday, still even keel, still race. By the way, still 6 sprint weekends in 2024. So that is the format for sprint weekends as we will know them for this upcoming season. Now for a couple of updates on some previous stories I've ran in some episodes. On Monday, I mentioned Christian Horner was under investigation. They did have a hearing today. Red Bull and Horner met to go over the investigation and the findings. However, it was announced that no decision will be made today, and likely there will be no decision made before the RB20's launch next Thursday, February 15th. So we still don't know where this is going to shake out. We likely will get a decision for Bahrain, which honestly, in my opinion, is going to be a very, very, very awkward time. I will say this, though. There are reports among some very credible media sources that are suggesting that Horner could be sent packing from the investigation findings, which is a very big 180 from what I thought initially. And if the reports are true and the findings do have Horner stepping away from the team on the eve of testing in the start of the season, that is going to be a very big blow for Red Bull. Granted, they still have right now the world's best car, the world's best designer, and still the world's best driver, and Max Verstappen. And I'm not saying that because he's the best of all time. That's still Lewis. So please make sure you get that jotted down. But it's going to be a very interesting situation to read into if, by chance, Horner does get the boot and is asked to resign from this investigation and from these allegations. I will say this, if it is, then what was found must be very eye-opening and very disturbing because this has the potential to really shake up Formula One for the upcoming season, potentially. Last but not least, I did a video about a week ago on Brodie Kostecki, who is the champion of the Australian Supercar Series. The youngster is currently in a dispute with his team, Erebus Motorsports, in regards to a series of things, potentially his contract, which I think he was only about to start the second year of. Well, since I broke that, I had a comment on that video. Shout out to some followers down under who actually managed to find my story. Neil Sullivan, if I remember the name correctly. If I did butcher the name, I do apologize. But he did give me an update, and I actually followed up to confirm it's true. But one of the biggest shakeups is the team's primary sponsor from 2023, Coca-Cola, has announced they were ceasing association with the team on the brink of the season, and they weren't the only ones. A multitude of sponsors have left the Erebus team on the brink of the new season, which is very eye-opening for everybody in the sport. The team actually showed up to testing earlier this week with a white and black Erebus Motorsport livery and nothing else. Another strange thing was they actually had one car with the number 1, and that's interesting because if Kostecki has left the team, then Kostecki is the only driver by Supercars rule who can wear and don the number 1 on his car. No one, not even the team, has the ability to wear the number 1. Only Kostecki can wear that number 1 on the car. So very interesting to see. And also, the CEO of Supercars actually penned an open letter. The letter was distributed earlier this week, And it was a multitude of things. Of course, we're keeping fluent with the situation. We want to make sure everybody is staying abreast. We know it's a difficult situation. We can't comment on things right now, vis-a-vis and such forth. So hopefully there is. So again, I'm hoping the best for Brodie. I hate to see all this going down literally right before the start of the season. Supercar season actually kicks off February 25th at Mount Panorama. For the Bathurst 500 weekend, there is a Bathurst 500 weekend this year because the original season opener, which was set to happen down in Newcastle, just outside of Sydney, City decided to cancel the contract with Supercars. That race is no more. So, as a last-minute replacement, Bathurst steps up, and Mount Panorama will kick off the season in addition to having the series' biggest race this fall. So, with that being said, we've reached the end. I tried to make this a little bit of a Spitfire edition, but you got to give a little detail. Again, leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Please feel free to like, share, critique me, give me some good, give me some bad. Trust me, I'm trying to get better at this. Hopefully to have some more videos coming out soon. Like I did with World Endurance Championship and Extreme E, I hope to be speaking on a lot of other subjects. I even got a new idea in mind, so you'll hopefully see that within the next few days as well. But with that being said, thank you so much, family, for tuning in. This has been the Scrutineering Room. I'm David Lawrence, and until next time, keep a smile on your face, kids. You look better when you wear one. So long, everybody. Bye-bye.